What's going on, everybody? Welcome to week 3 of our Matchday predictions, and today we're going to go through the 10 games over the weekend, make our predictions, and so on and so forth. Last week, we did all right. We picked the Leeds result. We picked the Everton result and margin. Didn't pick Palace right. We picked the Arsenal result. And then that was kind of it. We picked the Leicester result. There are a lot of draws in there that I'm picking. There hasn't been a single draw yet. Some teams did better, obviously, than I figured they would, even though we talked about how good they were. Brighton did well. We were on the cusp of picking a Brighton win there, but we went with the draw. We picked Sheffield United to win. Early red card kind of ruined that, though they had a chance to go ahead with the penalty, poor penalty, and then we picked 1-1 in the Wolves game, and City ended up walking away with that win. So, not the greatest week, but we're not doing too bad to start, and hopefully we'll pick up a little bit here. So let's jump into this. Brighton, Man United to start the weekend. Now this one is a fun one. Manchester United, a very poor result. Obviously 3-1 to Palace, and frankly they were not good. And Palace played very, very well. Deserved the win in the end. Of course, a couple things could have gone differently, and United would have snatched a point there. I don't think it was a penalty or the De Gea thing, but in the end, really, United deserved to lose that game, so I'm not too fussed. And then Brighton, who have started really, really well, a 3-0 win over Newcastle last time out, and then a impressive performance against Chelsea, some unlucky goals conceded and things like that. So they've played very, very well to start the season. Now, I'm going to pick a 1-1 here. I think this game, maybe we'll see the first draw of the season. It's amazing there have been none. But we're going to go with 1-1 now. Brighton, I think, are going to overachieve this season. The way they've started, the way they've been playing football to start, and United, who still haven't found really any transfers they would have liked outside of Van de Beek. We'll see how they go toward the end of the window here. We got about a week left, not very long. Not a week, 10 days-ish, 9 days, but their team just looks stale. The football hasn't been great. They weren't very good against Palace all around, and I just think Brighton seem into it. I like them to get a point here. We'll see with United. They always do for a goal. There's quality in that side, so we'll see if they can nick one as well, but 1-1 in the end. Next we have Crystal Palace and Everton. Crystal Palace starting very well, of course. 2 wins from 2, a 1-0 over Southampton, and then the 3-1 over United last week. Scoring a couple goals. We spoke at the beginning of the season in our predictions for the Premier League that Crystal Palace, we had them on the verge of relegation. But we kept them up in turn because we have, or what they have, what I like to call a match winner in Wilfried Zaha, and so far, 3 goals. He started very, very well. Everton have also started pretty well, a 5-2 over West Brom the other day, and then the 1-0 over Tottenham to start, so 6 points, 2 teams on 6 points here. I want to go with a 1-0 to Everton, or a 2-1 kind of thing. My thing with Palace is, if you score first, and you make Palace come out chasing, you've got a really good chance of knocking up the score a little bit on Palace. Palace they defend really well, play on the break, and they selectively play on the break as well. When they go ahead, they are incredibly well structured at the back, and they're very, very difficult to break down. If you score the first goal, I think you can win the game. I like Everton here, 2-1, to sneak on through and keep their good start going. Next, Chelsea, West Brom. West Brom conceding 8 goals so far. Of course, the silly red card last week after it went 2-1 to Everton. I mean, it's going to be a really, really long year for West Brom. I really think so. Chelsea, of course, still trying to get back into the gear a little bit, trying to find everyone's best position, starting to bed the new players in. It's a lot to do. I still don't think that will be done and dusted really in terms of gelling for quite a few weeks, but the defense should, in theory, get a little bit better with the new goalkeeper. Chilwell will slot in, though I don't know how much of an upgrade on Alonso he is defensively. And then Thiago Silva, he'll slot in as well. But the defense still scares me, but they should be more than enough here for West Brom. 3-0, I like Chelsea to win here and kind of cruise away from the bottom side. Burnley, Southampton. Burnley conceded 4 last week, though it was their first game, so I don't want to put too much into that, but Burnley cannot afford to defend like that if they are going to, get to where they want to be, mid-table type of side. They just can't defend like that. 4 goals they conceded. There's some silly ones in there, a couple deflections, unlucky things, but they cannot concede 4. And then Southampton, who are playing reckless football. They were 5-2 beaten last week to Tottenham. And at the beginning, when they lost 1-0 to Crystal Palace, I thought they looked pretty good. And then they seem to be ready and to get their system going. And they're really pushing fullbacks forward and stuff. And Crystal Palace played pretty defensive. So I figured the fullback thing was kind of just, one of those things. You got an extra man, just push up a little bit. You don't have an extra man. You have the extra space, push up a little bit. But they are throwing men forward. And last week and the week before, teams have been going right over the top of them. I mean, almost all the goals that Tottenham scored last week were just thrown over the top to Son, and he was just kind of through on goal. They don't have the center backs, I don't think, to play this high line and just hold on with each other. I think they need to pull the fullbacks back a little bit and just get a little bit more defensive. I don't think they need to change too much, but they need to be a little bit better. I'm going to go with Burnley here. Jesus, can't even speak. I'm going to go with Burnley here to win 2-1. I just think Burnley are set up for this. They like to sit and defend. Southampton, throwing men forward. They'll hit them on the break and come away with the 3 points. Next. This is a pretty cool one. I kind of want to watch this one as well. Or I'm really looking forward to watching it. I will watch. I'm looking forward to it. Leeds United and Sheffield United now. This is a pretty neat one. Sheffield haven't started particularly well, and I kind of agreed with Wilder the other day in terms of they just keep shooting themselves in the foot because when they're not making silly mistakes, they're in games and, they create chances and stuff like that. And I'm just not sure when they're going to kind of get all their mistakes out and get back to it. But, we'll see on that front. But this is a pretty decent side. They're well drilled. So when they make mistakes, when you set up this way, when you make mistakes, they're glaring. And it's really causing problems for Sheffield United, their own mistakes here. And then Leeds United, of course, another 4-3. 4-3 win and a 4-3 loss to start the season for Leeds. They are going to score goals. They are going to concede goals. It is going to happen all year long. They are going to go down swinging if they are going to go down. I don't think they will, but they're going to go down swinging. Now, this is a pretty cool game in terms of they're going to sit back Sheffield a little bit and try and hit them on the break in space. And then Leeds are just going to do their regular Leeds thing. Now, I think there's more quality here at Sheffield than there was at Fulham. So we'll see on that front. I think they're more likely to defend well and less likely to kind of miss chances going forward. Fulham scored their 3 goals, of course, but there were plenty of chances they had to kind of break and find space, and they really just didn't. I think you're bound to find more quality here with Sheffield United. I still think this is going to be very, very tight. I'm going to call it 2-2 here. I'd like this to finish level. I don't think Leeds are going to come in here and win, but the way they play football is just almost on the day is when you're going to figure out teams. You can't look at Leeds and bring them into a game and go, they don't fit here, they don't fit here. They're just going to cause chaos, and on the day if they're finishing or on the day if the opponent's finishing, it could be any score for either side. 2-2 here in the end to these two teams. Next, Tottenham Newcastle. Tottenham last week playing very, very well. Of course, destroying Southampton 5-2 in the end. And then Newcastle playing very poorly. 3-0 loss to Brighton. Now, Newcastle are a very weird team to me, or Tottenham are as well. But Newcastle are one of those teams that show up sometimes and play really, really well, and then one of those teams that all, every other week they seemingly don't seem to care and they don't show up, they don't create. I never know which Newcastle side is going to turn up. It's very strange. And then Tottenham, I think, were buoyed a little bit by a very poor game plan from Southampton, but all their other games have been very, very tight against teams they should be really walking away from. So I don't know with them as well. It's going to take a couple more weeks to really figure out some of these teams. Tottenham being one of them. This game is going to be tight. I like Tottenham to win this game 2-1. I don't think they're going to walk away from Newcastle here, and I don't think Newcastle are going to come into this game and lie down, but they're two teams that are going to take a couple weeks to really get the hang of, really get the feel of, and we'll see. But Tottenham there 2-1. Next we have Manchester City and Leicester City. Man City coming out against Wolves the other day with a 3-1 win, and the first half was particularly impressive. But then the second half was kind of bad. It was just bad. Wolves were very much on top. Man City, they have the quality, so they're always, seemingly creating chances. Playing in space is something they like to do. So going behind to Manchester City is obviously going to get you in serious trouble. But Wolves could have easily grabbed a point late on in that game. But a very strange game for Manchester City. And then Leicester, of course, starting the year out very, very well. Last week, of course, beating Burnley and then West Brom. So not the, toughest of games so far, but, obviously 6 points is 6 points. Now, Manchester City showed in that Wolves game that last year may not necessarily have been a fluke and more of the norm in terms of they have games where they rip teams apart and you look at them and think, how in the world can this side lose any games whatsoever? And then they have games where they're just not finishing chances and they are going to lose 1-0. And that's what that game against Wolves was like in terms of two halves of football. The first half could have been anything. Second half, Wolves could have easily grabbed a point or three, and come away with it, and you would have thought, what in the world was that? It's a very strange balance that they have at the moment, City. They're going to try and bring in another center back. For the moment, it looks like one of those younger center backs, so I'm not sure how quickly he'll come into the side and really dominate. We'll see, of course, who they bring in, 1 and 2, how long that takes, but it's still topsy-turvy a little bit there at Manchester City. But I think they're going to beat Leicester here today. Now, Leicester, who had a really, really good start to the season last year, at the end of December, played City and played Liverpool and were torn apart both times. They go into it, they're second in the league, and they're playing well, and they're title challengers, they think, and then 2 games in a row where they get absolutely demolished and their season fell off the rails. And they didn't fall off the rails and skid into a hole. They fell off the rails and off the bridge. It was like that huge of a drop. And I don't expect anything different here. I think City are going to win this game 3-1, 4-1. We'll go with 3-1, but there's something about Leicester City where they come out to play against these bigger teams and they just cannot handle it. They're a little bit too aggressive sometimes. Sometimes they're just not up to it. The quality's just not there on the day sometimes. And that's fair enough. You're going up against Manchester City, who are built to the brim with quality, but there's something about this matchup that it always seems that City are going to walk away with it. I think they're going to walk away with it here. Leicester City are kind of trying to get a couple signings over the line, but no signings that I don't think will help them. Even if they got them in for this game, they won't. But it'll be a very difficult game for Leicester. I like Manchester City, to win 3-1. Next, we have West Ham and Wolves. And now West Ham here are in a position where they need points as soon as possible. Their first 7 or 8 games, they could very easily be 7 games into the season with 0 points, kind of like Palace were last year or the year before, one of those two. They're going to start out at a huge deficit. They seem to play everybody important or everybody that's big, and expecting to finish in the top 6, they play them really early. Obviously, they played Arsenal to start, and then Newcastle's not necessarily a big team, but a loss already. And then they play Wolves this week, Leicester next week, Tottenham, I believe, Manchester City, and then Liverpool, and then week 8 they play Fulham, and that's kind of where it eventually kind of slows down a little bit. But at some point, they're going to need points. This is one of the opportunities, I feel, at home they can try and grab a point. Wolves started the year very, very well with the win over Sheffield, and then the City game was a tale of two halves, except the opposite way. Like we were talking about with Manchester City, Wolves started really, really poorly. City could have scored any amount, and then in the second half, they were creating chance after chance after chance and could have leveled it up, and then lost in the end. But very, very strange. I think Semedo's going to help them out on that right-hand side when he comes in. I'm not sure if he'll be available for this game, but it's something that'll free up Traore a little bit, hopefully. And then, we'll see if they get a little bit more aggressive from the get-go and their best player can play, in space and stuff like that. It's going to be a good year for Wolves. I think Wolves are going to have a good year. West Ham, on the other hand, still no signings. Relegation battle coming this year. They're looking at Fofana, the defender from Saint-Etienne, but he's 19. It's going to be tough to bring him in to kind of play first-team football here and upgrade the defense. I worry for West Ham. They've started really, really badly. Not necessarily really badly. They had that 2-0, or not that 2-0 loss. They had the 2-1 loss last week, and then the loss on opening day. And last week against Arsenal, they played pretty well. And I don't want to throw away their good performance because they could have definitely won that game and lost it really late. I just don't think Arsenal are very good in terms of playing teams that are not great as well. They just have a weird way of playing when they're not playing the big dogs, so I haven't judged Arsenal just yet in terms of how good I think they're going to be. But they had a chance to grab some points there, didn't, and I think that's just what this is. I like Wolves to win this game 2-1. I think Wolves are the better team. I think they're more clinical. It's going to be tough for West Ham. They're going to fight, but they have quality, so it's going to be tight. I just worry too much for West Ham, and I think Wolves are in a better position. So 2-1 to Wolves, and forward we go into the Fulham and Aston Villa game now. Aston Villa, an early red card against, had the penalty save from Martinez on his debut, and then they went ahead and won the game off that corner from the Konsa goal. Now, they did not play well against 10 men. I know they're going to sit back and stuff, but they didn't seem to have a game plan. It was very, very strange. And then Fulham, who have had a poor start to the year, of course, the 3-0 loss to Arsenal, and then the 4-3 against Leeds. They fought back from 4-1 down, but it was always really Leeds holding on to the lead, and in the end getting the win. It always felt like Leeds could have grabbed another at some point. It just never really happened. I expect them to have a really, really tough season. I think this game's going to finish as a draw, though, 1-1. Aston Villa last week I was not impressed with how they were going forward. As I said, 10 men sitting deep. It's going to be tough, but they didn't really have any ideas whatsoever. Fulham, on the other hand, fighting, scrapping. It'll be tough for them defensively this year unless they get another center back, which they seem to be looking at. Going forward, they don't have a ton, but you're going to grab results against teams that aren't playing well. I don't think Aston Villa are going to start off this season high flying. I think they're going to grow into it a little bit, and I think Fulham and Villa are going to draw here 1-1. And finally, we have Liverpool-Arsenal. Liverpool putting to bed the doubt that was with them after the Leeds game, that they were falling apart, and then a makeshift defense. Fabinho pushed back, held Chelsea at bay. Chelsea had a couple chances, of course, obviously the Jorginho penalty, but there are only really a couple saves for Alisson to make. He made one really late, and then he made the Jorginho save early on. Not too many saves. Of course, the red card messes everything up for Chelsea, but Liverpool were dominant. Thiago came on and was spraying the ball around, looked very good. They've brought in another player to push the front three in Jota. So I think they've gotten better. It went from Liverpool are declining defensively and not having signings, and they're going to stagnate, to Liverpool still know what they're doing and bought in a couple of really good signings, and then all of a sudden everything's right in the world again. It's amazing what a couple of days could really do for a football club, and it happened to Liverpool there. Arsenal, on the other hand, not the greatest of results. The great result. The result is nice, a 2-1 victory, but they didn't play very well against West Ham. Probably a little bit worrying, but this is the type of game that Arteta likes. He likes to sit back and counter against these really big teams, and Liverpool have been susceptible. Oh my goodness. Liverpool have been prone to counterattacks since the restart, really. And Chelsea had a few in the first half of the game last week where they could have, at least got a couple shots off. They did, put themselves in some pretty decent positions. So Arsenal will come into this game looking to play just like Chelsea did last week. They will try and hit Liverpool on the counter. Whether Liverpool are in a better position to break down teams, I think they are with Thiago. I think he's going to start on Monday, mainly because I normally wouldn't think that, but defensively, Liverpool, I think, are going to play Fabinho at center back with Van Dijk again. So I think without Henderson, their midfield would be something like Keita, Wijnaldum, and Thiago. So perhaps we'll see, or maybe Milner in there or something like that. But I think Thiago will play. If he does, he's the type of player Liverpool bought in to break down a team like Arsenal. And I think they will break Arsenal down. Liverpool, I think, to win this game 2-0. It'll be very, very tight, but I just don't see it with Arsenal yet. I need a couple more weeks with Arsenal to figure out what this team is like. Liverpool, I watch them every week. I know what they're like. It's just Arsenal need a little bit of time. Arsenal are two different teams when they play the big teams, the big six, and then when they play the rest of the teams. There's two separate teams there. One struggles to create, and then the other one is good at creating and then sits back, counters, holds on to pressure. It's very, very strange from Arsenal at the moment, so we'll see what happens going forward. But Liverpool here to get away with the win. I was going to say 2-0, but I think I'm going to go with 3-1, actually. We'll bump that up to another goal apiece. 3-1 in the end to Liverpool, guys. But that is going to be it here for the end of the week. 10 games for you, and the season's really starting to heat up, and it's going to take a couple weeks to get used to some of these teams. Burnley, Southampton, Leeds, Sheffield, Newcastle, Wolves, Manchester City, everybody essentially. It's going to take a few weeks to really get into the rhythm. There are teams you can see they're going to be good, they're going to not be good. Brighton have started really well. You think they're going to have a really good year. Fulham, West Brom, they look like they're going to have poor years. It's one of those things where early on you can sense a couple things, and other things take a couple of weeks. But we'll see going forward, guys. But that is going to be it. I hope you've enjoyed. Let me know in the comments how you feel about some of these games. But for now, peace.